let's dive right in here. Be a little in the bottom left here. Okay, brought to you by Vorse. That's my company. For those of you who don't know what we do, real brief, we work with B2B SaaS and service companies, and we help them build a repeatable sales process. So generally our customers come to us when they're building a team for the first time and they want to do it correctly, or they have a team already and it's just not working as well as we're hoping it would work, and they want us to help them fix it. We do not take very many customers. In fact, I can onboard one customer at the end of February. We're already booked out for the first part of February. So you don't get a lot of sales pressure from me. It's also a big reason why this isn't a big sales pitch. If it's something that you think you want support in, feel free to go to the website. You can book a call with me there. We can chat and see if it's a good fit. Okay, that's it. That's my blurb. Here's my promise to you. By the end of this, you will know exactly how to turn any willing SDR or AE that does their own prospecting into a top performer. The lens I'm using for this is cold outbound. A lot of this applies to inbound. And if you have a team that's operating inbound leads only, let me know the questions that you have around the chat. I've worked with plenty of inbound SDR teams. I know how to run those functions very well. All right. Quickly here, who is Kyle Van Voorst? Who is this guy that's talking to you right now? I've worked with over 80 B2B software and service companies, really around building repeatable sales processes. If you've been following me for a while, you know I take a very data-driven approach when it comes to running sales organizations. You're not going to see me wearing tight t-shirts and short shorts and trying to do rah-rah speeches to sales teams. I love that as much as the next guy, but I'm really more of this strategic operational thinker when it comes to building out sales orgs. And I think it's the best way to have longevity in your sales organization. So it's a little less spiky, and you actually have a system that's scalable versus something that's really reliant on a few key hires. I don't like to hire and hope. I like to have a process that they can execute on that I'm confident actually works. I've written 3 Amazon best-selling books. One's on cold outreach called Cold to Committed. The other is on leading sales teams called the Sales Development Framework. And the third one is on how to build a repeatable process. It's called 16 Steps to Repeatable Sales. And across my clients that are venture backed, they've raised $280 million in venture capital, primarily with one private equity squeezed in there. Over $100 million in software and services, and sold. And then I've personally trained over 1,000 people. I started as an SDR. I was an account executive. I've run teams. I've been in boardrooms while things are going great. I've been in boardrooms while things are definitely not going great. So I know the sales world from a bunch of different lenses, and that's why I have a lot of material for those of you who've come to this before around how to effectively run these organizations. All right, enough about me, more about you. The first principle I really want to share with you, and I have some spreadsheets and stuff I'm going to give you at the end, but these are going to be more like principles for you to really think about and implement within your organization. And the first one is expectation setting. One of the poisons of sales teams is the reps individually don't know what they have to do on a daily basis in order to hit their number. So they kind of just make stuff up and do whatever they can, right? Oh, whatever it takes to get the deal. I've been in those shoes where I was a rep with zero guidance, just trying to figure out how to hit my number, right? It's very, very frustrating. So expectation setting is critical. So the first thing here is, what do the reps have to do on a daily basis to hit their number? And I'm asking you to do the math. Figure out how many calls a day does it take to book the amount of meetings you need to book in order to hit your number, right? Like, we really need to give the reps clarity around their day. Now, if they can hit their number in a different way, that's fine, but we need to at least have a way that we know is going to work for them. Then the next question here that we have to answer for reps is, what happens when they don't hit their number? Spoiler alert, they don't have a job. Sales is a performance-based part of your organization. Treat it that way. But what I see is a lot of sales reps where they're in environments where mediocrity is tolerated, poor performance is tolerated, and it creates a really toxic culture that I do not want you to have at your organization. And then the third thing here, how are you going to help them hit their number? What are you as an executive team, as a company, going to provide them to enable them to hit their number? We're going to talk about the next principle here around training in a minute, but I really want to touch on the importance of having clarity around what has to be true in order to hit your number. Expectations. This is what we expect from you. And if a rep does it in a different way, like I said, it's okay. It's okay. But I want them to do it my way to hit their number. And if they find another way to do it, great. And honestly, I'm probably going to look at that person, try to reverse engineer what they're doing to enhance our process. But I need to feel confident that my baseline process and all team members that I bring on are going to be executing on is in a place that I know it'll lead to them hitting their number. Okay, great. The next principle here is structured training. Make sure that you are doing some kind of regular training with your team. Now, even if you don't have the best experience here, whether either find somebody to do it for you or have one of the reps run it, but you need to have a regular training cadence. Figure out a way to make this happen. The first thing I'm going to say here is you need to have a schedule. So 2 times a week, 3 times a week. You can get super advanced with different tiers of SDR. So actually, if anybody here has a really large, type in how many SDRs that you have or AEs that you have in the chat. I want to take a look at this. Do you only have 2 SDRs? You have 40. So for example, when I was an SDR, I was one of 90 SDRs. So we had tiers to our training schedules, but 2 to 3 times per week is what I expect from a training schedule. So yeah, Dylan has 9 SDRs. That might be a good point where you do 2 tiers. Like maybe your more advanced SDRs, you do coaching training with them twice a week. And then the newer SDRs, you do it 3 times a week. Most people are around 2, 3, got 8 here. 3 BDRs, 5 AEs. Okay, great. 8 again. All right, perfect. So actually some larger teams here, which is great. In general, 2 to 3 is my window. If I have very advanced SDRs, that you don't have to do as much regular training with. I'll do once a week. Just depends, right? But that's generally the way I do it. The next thing I'll say here is take the training very seriously. It's often that I see, especially if founders do the training, but even like some sales leaders that just don't like training all that much, where there's no real schedule. They just show up and they're like, okay, let's do the training. And the training is going to be, we're listening to calls, which is super important, by the way, that's on the list here, but, and just like giving some feedback and then that's it. Right. And I want more constructive training based on what challenges the reps are facing. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And the next thing here is to have a healthy mix of concepts training, like here's the proper way to handle when someone says not interested on a cold call and they're about to hang up on you. Also call listening, actually listening to those calls and giving them feedback, like I already mentioned. That is the second best form of training, in my opinion, is call listening. And then role play, actually doing some role plays with them, training. Usually this is paired with the concepts where you're teaching a new concept, you're role playing a lot. That's helpful too. But my number one, you might be thinking, you said this was your number 2. What's your number 1? My number 1 favorite coaching training to do, well, we're going to talk about coaching in a minute here, actually. So pause on that. This is called a cliffhanger. I'm very good at them. That's a cliffhanger. So here are the things from a training perspective that you really need to keep top of mind. The next is one-on-one coaching. Look at that. I almost got ahead of myself, but you can tell I'm a professional because I caught myself. That's right. No mistakes here, folks. One-on-one coaching. Super important that you're doing actual hands-on coaching with the reps. I love coaching in a one-on-one environment. So the first thing is I want the rep diagnosing themselves. Hey, here's what I believe I'm struggling with. Again, I'm going to give you some spreadsheets that help you identify some of these areas or enable the reps to be able to identify it. But I want the reps to come to me and say, hi, this is what I'm struggling with. So then I can go, okay, great. Here's how you do better in that area. And we can track it, et cetera. This is the number 1 favorite form of coaching for me. Live floor coaching. If you have a manager, actually type in the chat if you have a manager or if you are the manager, or if you have no manager. And by the way, if you're a founder with 2 SDRs, you are the manager, by the way. So there should never be a situation where you have no manager unless the SDRs are just by themselves. Tell me which one you have. Live floor coaching. If you're a manager or have a manager, the expectation is I want 70% of your time listening to calls and giving live feedback right after a call happens or during the call if the rep can handle that. Some reps, their brains melt down if you try to talk to them or send them a message during a cold call. Let me look at what we have here. Have a manager. Okay, perfect. Have a manager. A lot of people have managers. Player coach. Okay, that's good too. So a player coach wouldn't be able to spend 70% of their time doing this, but if you can put in part of their day where they spend maybe, If they can spend an hour a day doing live coaching, that would be great. That might be a tall order. You have to work it in. I'm the manager / coach. Okay, good. I'm the manager. Perfect. For those of you who aren't full-time managing, maybe you're a founder and you do some of the management yourself, try to have windows of time where you're listening to cold calls live and you're giving them feedback. It's incredible. And if you're doing this already today, type that into the chat. I'm curious how many people are doing live floor coaching today. It's incredible how quickly an SDR will improve right when they make a mistake, even if it's right after that call, but right when they make the mistake, immediately they get feedback. Hey, there's a better way to do it. Here's how. It's incredible how fast it goes. Okay, cool. So I didn't see anybody say that they are actively doing this. So hopefully this is a big takeaway from this call. Again, if I have a manager running a team, sales team, SDR team, I don't care. Cold outbound sales calls, I don't care. Live floor coaching is the bulk of what I want them to do, right? They should be raising all boats. Very, very important. And then finally here, expose bottlenecks and coach based on data. The data tells us what we need to focus on. I cannot stress this enough. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, and one of the biggest challenges that I see are organizations where they're like, hey, here's a new script. Oh, 100 calls a day. Let's go. Like, we have to do 100 calls a day. You guys are doing 50 now. You got to do 100. Oh, here's how you handle these objections. We're changing our demo. We're changing our market. Just based on feel. Or like strange anecdotal data. Oh, it comes up a lot. And like you don't actually know. It's mind-boggling to me. You want the data to drive what you're actually working on with the team. Is our dial to connect rate low? Then why are we changing the script? Doesn't make sense. The script doesn't hurt our dial to connect rate, right? I want the data to tell me. And there's two things that you're going to be looking at in data. One's higher level metrics, and the other one is really specific to cold call. That, by the way, the second thing I'm showing you here, no one does. But when you do it, the insights it gives you is incredible. Okay, so let's talk about the data piece here. We're going to start with the SDR tracking sheet. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull this up. SDR tracking sheet. I thought I opened this already. My fault. SDR tracking sheet. Okay, cool. Let me pull this over. Okay, here's the SDR tracking sheet. Let me make this bigger so you guys can actually see what's going on here. Before I actually do this, can I stop sharing for a second here just to like make you pay attention? Okay, look me in the eye. Okay, eye contact. My eyes are blue. It should be a pleasant experience for you. Look me in the eye. Here's the deal. Some of you are sitting there and going, a spreadsheet? They have to manually fill out a spreadsheet? And my answer is yes. And yes, it's in the CRM. I get that. I want you tracking in the CRM too. But the SDRs need to own their metrics. I want them at the end of the day going in and typing in how many calls they made, how many people they spoke to. I want them taking that kind of ownership over their data. They're supposed to make 100 calls a day in order to hit their number. Remember the expectations we talked about, which is based on math. By the way, I'm not just saying 100. You're going to work backwards and determine exactly how many calls that they need to make in order to hit their number. And if you have a question about that, type it in. I'll get to it after I go through these sheets. Totally fine. I don't care what the call number is. But we have to, based on the expectations we give, have the rep type in the numbers that they actually did. I'm supposed to make 100 a day. I made 80. Shoot, tomorrow I need to really catch up, or I'm not going to hit my number because the number is based on the math. Very, very important. Oh, geez, my dial to connect rate was really low. Why is that? Or wow, I converted really high today. Awesome. What did I do differently today that I didn't do the day before or last week? This is a type of thinking. When you get the whole sales organization to be thinking based on the data, your outcomes are so much better. I've seen it time and time again. The biggest challenges that I've seen with sales organizations are ones where they just don't use the data all that much. All right. So I made you stare me in the eyes. Hopefully that was a great experience. Let me go back to this here. Boom, here we are. All right, cool. The tracking sheets. I made it a little bigger here. Dials, emails, connects, so phone connects, email replies, demo set over the phone, demo set over email, demos complete, and demos no-showed. I want them updating this daily. This is a weekly number here. And at the end of every day, they add. So in this example here, if they made 100 calls that day, this would become 512. You would just update it. You can convert this daily if you want to. I just have it weekly and we update it, which has worked well for me. Here's the thing. I'm going to say another little controversial statement for some of you. I don't like SDRs emailing today. AI does the personalization really well. And if you're not confident in that, you're not deep enough into the AI stuff, and that should scare you. I don't want SDR sending emails anymore. 6 months ago, I was on the fence. Today, I have a strong opinion about it. It's stupid. They should be calling. AI doesn't do this well. AI does this very well. Humans, machines. This is my opinion. Okay, connects, replies, you get the idea. So they fill all this in, and then these calculations happen. Total activity, number of connects, blah, 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 but I care about these percentages here, right? Show rate, 3364. Oh, geez, rep one here, 33% show rate. So if I'm working with this rep, I'm like, we need to focus on this. Maybe the team average is like 70%. You're way lower than the team average. And you'll start seeing this week over week, and you can track the improvements of it. What's some stuff that you're not doing? 64%, maybe this is okay, right? Phone dial to connect rate, 10% here, 16%. By the way, a 6% increase here is dramatic for dial to connect rate. Why? Is there something that rep 2 is doing that rep 1 isn't? Is rep 2 getting a different list than rep 1? Is rep 2 calling their follow-ups more than rep 1? Start to understand why, and then you can give direct coaching. Email sent to reply. You get the idea there. You also know my opinion. Phone connected demo, 4.7% for net. The sample data here just has rep 1 is terrible. Rep 2 is incredible. Rep 2 is 9%. Gosh, well, what's rep 2 doing that rep 1 isn't? And what you'll start to see across your team, especially those of you with 4, 8, 9 reps, you'll have a team average, and you'll have, a spread, like a scatter plot basically of where everybody lands. And the people who heavily overperform in a certain metric, figure out what they're doing and start to systematize it to try to increase the low performers up higher, which will increase your team average. That's ultimately what you're doing, right? This is part of being more data-driven with when you make some changes. But I want to show you another thing here. It's going to go deeper into the cold calling stuff, okay? And any questions you have, type it down. I'm going to go through everything, and I will share these sheets with you at the end of it. Okay, so what we're going to do here, this is the cold call analyzer. Are you excited? I'm excited. Cold call analyzer. Boom, look at this. Another spreadsheet. You guys love it. Every time I put a spreadsheet up, there's this beautiful symphony that goes on in the background. Okay, so this is the cold call analyzer. Again, I will give you this as well. Side note, my dream is we just track it like this. We don't even use the other tracking sheet. We just track it like this, but it's much more manual. So when I generally use this is if we have a team cold calling and I'm trying to analyze their cold call script, I'll have them manually do this for 2 weeks to get some data and make some decisions on how we're going to change the script. I'm not changing the entire script. I'm changing the part of the script that isn't working for us. Again, I like it if we just do this consistently, but I get this is extra manual. The other sheet I showed you, they should just look at a dashboard and type in the number. Totally fine. This requires them to track things throughout the day. So what is it? Dials that they made, connects, people they spoke to, people who actually answered the phone. How many times they said the intro of the cold call script? How many times they had a conversation? How many times they asked for the meeting? How many times they actually booked a meeting? And I want one of these per rep. So the rep would have their own sheet of, and then you would roll it up if you're trying to look at the broader script stuff. But you can see where an individual rep struggles too. It's very, very cool. So right here, we have 5 days worth of data, and you can see we are calculating the percentages. So let me zoom in here. So here's the data. Knowing this is game changing. And by the way, no one's doing this. I already mentioned that. Very few. I've actually never seen anybody do this. If you do this to this granularity, impressive. I've never seen anybody do it. It tells us the dial to connect rate. You're probably tracking that already. Connect to intro. So when we connect with somebody, what percentage of the time are we able to finish our intro? If this is low, we probably should change the intro. But in this case, it's 81%. Okay, pretty good or very good. Intro to conversation, 25%. So that means we get through the intro, like connect to actually saying the intro, we say it. Intro to conversation, it's not very common. So maybe we need to tweak the intro. And I have something called the golden call script that we use. I I've tested, you've probably seen, I've tested over 4 million cold calls. This is a script that I've just honed over a very long time. There's a part of it called the golden question, which is, I typically talk with CEOs. They tend to struggle with one of two things. One, they don't have enough leads for the salespeople to hit their number, or two, they have enough leads, but the sales team's conversion is too low and they're not hitting their number. That would be a golden question. I might change those if only 25% of people are having a conversation with me after I say it. Intro to conversation. So then conversation to ask. Of the conversations that you're having, what percentage of the time are you actually asking for a meeting? And I actually had a rep, this is a long time ago when I was running a team, where she was really struggling. When we did this exercise, actually when I started doing it was with her, we found that she basically never asked for a meeting. So I told her, hey, new rule. I don't care how the conversation is going. You're required to ask for a meeting on every single cold call. And she did. She started booking a ton of meetings. Sometimes a rep is confused when they're supposed to ask, and just by forcing them to ask more, they end up asking more. Doesn't work like that all the time, but that was just in this case it did. And then ask to meeting. When we ask, what percentage of the time do we get a meeting? And then you'll see your dial to meeting rate. This is a number I care about for a different model that I use, so maybe less relevant to you. And then connect to meeting rate, which is really important as well, which is at 6%. Now, whether that's high, low, et cetera, it's based on what you should expect, right? Your team is going to be doing this kind of outreach. You'll have a baseline number and you're going to work to improve it. I don't care about benchmarks very much. I care about your reality and your organization, calling into your market with your product or service. This information is critical. It tells me exactly what I need to tweak in the script. Hey, conversation to ask, you're either not asking or our conversations aren't going all that well. Oh, you're struggling with your intro to conversation. Let's tweak the intro a bit and see if we can get into more conversations. Let's change the permission-based opener. Let's change the golden question. That's how I'm thinking about it. Another, and this is outside of this sheet, another thing I'll do in the CRM is I'll look at call outcome. So, DM connected, decision maker connected, gate got blocked by gatekeeper, whatever the different outcomes that you have. And I'll look at average duration per outcome and the distribution of that outcome. And it also will tell me some stuff. I can talk about that in the Q&A section. That's more of like CRM stuff. But this sheet is really helpful for all of that. All right, let's go back to, I think that this was all I had. Let me just double check here. Do I have a little, but yeah, that was it. Okay, cool. Those are the sheets for you. I'm going to grab those for you. We're going to move to Q&A. So hopefully you asked your questions when they popped up. Let me grab these sheets for you, and then I'm going to jump right into Q&A. Oh, if anyone's trying to leave now, don't. Hopefully that was convincing. Don't do it. Don't break my heart like that. I would like you to do a survey before you leave me, because it would make me sad if you left without doing the survey. Guys are like, this guy's a lunatic. Okay, here you go. This survey, please, please, please. I can't stress enough. I'm posting in the chat right now. Super helpful for me. I promise you it's not a sales thing. I'm the only sales guy at my company, just to be clear. We don't take a lot of customers. No SDR is going to call you for doing my survey. The survey gives me a lot of information on what topics I should be covering, what you guys thought of this. It means a lot to me when you do the survey. And if you've done the survey before, please do it again. Very, very, very important to me to get as many survey responses as possible so I can make better decisions about what topics I create content about. Okay, please. All right, that was my beg. While you're waiting to receive the 2 sheets, please do the survey, and I'm going to grab the sheets now. The first one I'm going to give you is the cold call analyzer. And by the way, for those of you who have come to a lot of these, you're probably impressed I even remembered to grab the sheets right now. Usually I forget, and then people angrily in the chat go, please, Kyle, those sheets. You have such a horrible memory. I say, hey, watch yourself. I'll end this live stream right now. Okay, cool. Now you have the sheets and you have my my survey link, which is my beg. Please do the survey link. I'm scrolling to the top. We're going to take questions as they came in, like I promised. And we got the first one here. How do you determine if you're setting the right quota metrics for your SDRs? Great question. Right now, our metric is the number of qualified leads driven per month. However, it's unclear at what stage a lead is considered qualified. I know. Is this the right metric we should track? If so, how do you define and measure qualification to ensure consistency and effectiveness? This question, and Garrett, I can tell you know about running an SDR team. This is one of the more challenging things that you run into when you run an SDR team. I was an SDR manager for a while, and I used to rip my hair out about this. Here's the deal. First of all, just to make you not feel nuts, this is never going to be clean cut. We're going to do our best. I'm going to tell you what I do to make it as clean cut as possible. But there's always a little element of like, so-and-so AE isn't marking my thing qualified, blah, blah, blah. So just know, totally normal to run into that. But let me answer your questions kind of in order. So the right quota metrics for SDRs, I believe, are qualified appointments completed. So the first meeting that they're responsible for booking showed up, and they met our qualifications, which is going to lead me into your next part of the question here, which is how you define and measure qualification. Qualification, I want them to be objective criteria. Do they check these boxes? And none of those boxes should be checked by feel. So a great example of this is I don't like budget being a disqualifier unless it's a really specific situation, like the company unless it's very specific reason for it to be a disqualifier. Because a good salesperson is working to justify and find the budget with the prospect. If it solves a big enough problem, they'll work it out and make the budget. SDR is not responsible for that. So why would it disqualify for something an SDR isn't even touching on with them? So I create really objective criteria. Here's what I generally do. And then again, this is super nuanced. So sometimes I deviate from this, but as a general like starting point, this is how I start. They showed up for the appointment. They were the right person for us to be talking to. And you choose what those roles are. Is it the owner, the CEO? Is it the CEO or CMO? Is it the on and on and on? Is it the manager? Probably not, but maybe, right? So you approve titles. Okay, so that's the other thing. They were that type of fit. They had a need. It's generally one that I have there. They had a problem that they want to solve. And they were an ICP. They fit the ICP. So they were a company of this range of size doing this amount of revenue, whatever those details are. But those are binary, not, oh yeah, I think that they're big enough. No. Are they big enough? Are they not? So if you have it binary, it becomes a lot easier for us to determine if somebody's qualified or not. So hopefully that helped, Garrett. If you have any follow-up questions, just type it in and I'll get to it as I go down here. Okay. Okay, what about for remote teams? Is there an equivalent for live floor coaching? Yeah, use Zoom and have them play their computer audio on Zoom. There's also some dialer tools where you can do this and it kind of simulates and you can listen to those calls. You can go find one of those dialer tools, or at the very minimum, do a Zoom session and have it structured in your day. Like, oh, I have an hour cold call coaching, live listening, an hour with so-and-so on this day, on these days, etc. That's how I would do it. Please share your formula for figuring out how many calls that they need to make. Let me grab that for you. I have something, sales, what is it? Activity tracker. You know what my next hire needs to just be someone super organized who organizes things for me. I thought my wife could fill that role, but she wants more space, she said. Okay. Is this the right one? All right, this one's very much for, I have a better version of this. All right, let me just share this for now. This is just for SDRs. I have one that like covers more. This is basically, you'll get it when I show you this. Here, this is an activity calculator, and it works backwards from sales accepted. So like a qualified appointment that showed up, you can just adjust it. You'll see the math all is pretty simple. Okay. Will you be sharing the sheet? Yes, and I did already. Isn't that amazing, Cassandra? I did it. Can you can download the sheet here. Oh, yeah. Andrew's sharing my lead magnets for me. Haha, you're all in my database now. Oh, before I answer this next question, guess what? Please fill out this survey. I'm reposting it. I'm begging you, please. everybody fills out the survey, not only will I be very happy, I'll be fulfilled. I could die a happy man, but I won't die. I promise that. My kids are too little. All right. My open rates are doing great, but I'm not. Okay, right here. My open rates are doing great, but I'm not having hardly reply. I'm not having very many replies. What can I troubleshoot? All right. If you're, and this is common, but first of all, I hate email, just so you know. Like, I don't want SDRs sending cold email. So I'm assuming this is automated email. And even if you're doing personalized first sentences, if you're not, you could try that. Generally, reply rates are low because the email isn't enticing enough for them to respond to it. One thing I would try, so you're changing the email copy, okay? So if open rates are fine, you're changing the email copy, the call to action to try to increase those rates, test different stuff. Here's one thing I'll give you that we've seen working a lot more recently is we'll do cold outreach to give a lead magnet. Hey, company types or titles tell me they struggle with X. I created this, or we created this thing that solves that problem for you. So like for me, like let's just use I just gave you, let's just say a quota calculator. It's like a lot of founders that I talk to, they struggle with creating attainable quotas for their sales teams. So I put together a quota calculator to help you calculate what your quota should be so that everybody can be on the same page. Would you like me to send it over? Question mark. And if they say yes, then you send it over, and then you can start a back and forth conversation. Will this recording be shared after the session? So I don't share recordings, but they do appear on our website by magic, and that magic is Esther. It's she's my EA. After this, we take the recording, we will put it on our website. This is a test. I just started doing this like 2 months ago. If you go to the events page, it's forest.com/events. You'll see previous sessions, and you can opt in. And if you opt in, it gives you access to all of them, so you can watch any of the previous recordings. So you'll have to just hop in and check every now and then. I don't like sending the recordings. All right, you'll find them. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, sorry, LinkedIn. I ignored LinkedIn again. Actually, why am I even worried about LinkedIn? No, you should sign up on vorce.com/events. Sign up for the classes there. I don't want to like play around copy and pasting links all over the place. Okay, what AI tools do you suggest for email? I'd like to start using them more, but not sure where to start. Okay, CT, a couple of things. One is I did a live class 2 weeks ago with my good friend Dan, and we went through an AI workflow for creating cold email. That's an option for you. Go watch that for free. There's also a tool called Lavender. I don't know. I know it's popular and people like it. I don't know if it seems like now they added functionality where it'll help write emails. I don't have a lot of experience with the tool. Again, I don't like SDR sending email. What I generally do, like what you can do is Clay. You can use Clay with, what is it? Like, I forget what they call it, but basically an API call to OpenAI to write personalized first sentences for a prospect based on their LinkedIn. That's something that you can do. You'd have to build it out. I would start by watching our prompting stuff that we did 2 weeks ago and then start looking at it. But I don't have a lot of the AI tools are all wrappers for ChatGPT. That's just the reality. So if you get better at prompting, you don't need a specialized email tool. What do you think about LinkedIn outreach? Good question. So my favorite form of LinkedIn outreach is when people engage in your content, they follow you, and you reach out to them and you just say, hey, are you here for the content? Or are you looking to, for me, improve your sales team, whatever your value prop is? And then you have a back and forth conversation. You try to book a meeting. I like that the best. The other thing, and you guys can go look at my LinkedIn. You'll see how I do like the lead gen portion of this, where I use a lot of hand raiser posts and whatnot. The other thing is doing some of the direct LinkedIn stuff. It's hit or miss. What we're seeing effective is the same thing with emails. If you reach out offering a lead magnet, that seems to work pretty well today. For cold email and cold LinkedIn messaging, it's really like when they zig, you zag. So everybody right now is using, or when I say everybody, all the growth hackers are using AI to create personalized first sentences, and everyone's burnt out. Personalization is not nearly as effective as it was 5 years ago. So got to think of some different approaches. That's what I would that's what I would try. But ultimately, if it works for you, do it. So I don't care what you do. I just care that what you do works. I happen to have had a lot of success throughout my entire career with cold calling, and I just know how effective that is as a channel. So I heavily bias towards cold calling. But if you're doing LinkedIn outreach and you find something that works consistently for you, document that, have other people do it. If you have one rep that was like, hey, can I give this a try? And they're hitting their number and they're doing a good job. Yeah, give it a shot. Oh, they started figuring something out. Let's reverse engineer. Let's add it to everybody's workflow. But you got to do the math of time spent, which not everybody realizes. Like the amount of time that SDRs will spend customizing or writing a personalized email is way longer than they think. I've seen SDRs would take like 20 minutes to write an email because they want to personalize it and make it perfect. It's just a dramatic waste of time. The vast majority of cases, even when your reply rate is way higher when you do it, the amount of calls you could have made in the time that it took you to do it, it just doesn't match up. So that's something to be thoughtful about. How do you tailor the activity trackers for service companies who don't have a software to demo? You do an initial sales call, same thing, just call demo, change it to meeting. It's the exact same thing. Whatever your first call is, if it's a discovery, they're booking discoveries. They're booking demos, they're booking demos. If it's, I don't know, like a sales pitch, call it sales pitch, whatever it is. And just so you know, Kaylee, about 60% of our clients are software. I think the other 40 are service, something around there. It depends also like when you talk to me. I think right now we actually might be a little bit more SaaS company than service companies. So it might be 30% service companies. So I know like these tracking fundamentals, they apply across both. What AI integrated email platform have you seen perform the best, both AI and deliverability? You know, Teresa, I don't fully know. I've used Instantly a lot, but the AI portion of that it doesn't seem like it's that robust. What I've found success with is using AI as part of the lead list creation. So you'll run every lead that gets added to the list of leads that you're going to upload into Instantly through an AI prompt that'll customize the first sentence, and then it'll populate one of the columns with the personalized first sentence, and then Instantly can stitch that together in the email that you're trying to send out. That is what I've done the most of. Deliverability is a big concern. So I don't play around with a lot of other stuff otherwise. So Instantly has worked well for me. Why aren't you bullish on email? Our cold emails and LinkedIn are working. Great. Then it works for you. Don't change it. Then definitely don't stop doing something that works just because I said so. I've just spent a lot of time with, I've spent a ton of time with sales teams, and the vast majority of them don't have cold email that's working, cold LinkedIn that's working. If they do, great. It's never the first thing that I start with. So that's what I'll say. I want cold calling working really well, and then we'll work with them to figure out their cold email and their cold LinkedIn. The big difference here is the cold LinkedIn and cold email stuff it's a big burden on us being able to speak very, very well to the target buyer. When I cold call somebody, I can change what I talk about and position our product or service based on the challenges that they're telling me that they have. So I can be much more dynamic with my messaging. With cold email, cold LinkedIn, I have to just see if it works. And it requires a lot more experimentation and testing and changing. We can just have the SDRs call. So if it's working for you, keep it. Like I said, how people are somewhat getting around this is they're just doing mass emails. Like, oh, we're going to send 1,000 emails a day. I don't mind if you do that either. So anyway, that's just why I'm just not as bullish. And I wouldn't even say that I'm not bullish on cold email, cold LinkedIn as a channel. I want to be very clear about that. They're effective. They work. They can work. Everything can work. That's not what I'm saying is that I have a problem with the channel. I have a problem with SDR spending time on a channel that AI can do just as well as they can, when they should be focused on a channel like cold calling that AI can't do and they can uniquely be good at. So that's just my perspective. What about activity tracker? Is that tailored to product selling only? Are the SDRs sourcing the prospects, or do they have previous built lists? Love this question. No, SaaS service, doesn't matter. We're tracking activities. And here's why activity tracking is so important. You need to understand the relationships between the activities that the team does and the outcomes that they generate. So important. Once you understand that relationship, now you have something you can actually scale a bit, right? Okay, well, how many leads do I have? How many people could I have calling? And how many calls can they make? And what would be my list penetration? You can do all of that. But I need to understand that relationship first. And I also need to be able to tell a rep what they have to do on a daily basis to be successful. So it works for both. Are the SDRs sourcing the prospect, or do they have previously built lists? Here's another opinion I have. Some people find it controversial. Most people don't. I do not believe SDRs should be responsible for creating their own lists. I actually think it's irresponsible for SDRs to be creating their own lists. I think it's irresponsible for an organization to give the responsibility of list creation, which is a company asset, to a junior person they just hired. Are you crazy? It doesn't make any sense to me. Instead, you should spend a lot of time, especially early on. The list is the strategy. So you spend a lot of time building out the lead list, making sure that the lead list is clean. We have companies that we're confident that they actually fit our ICP. You build out that lead list and you distribute that lead list. Now, can the SDRs or AEs use ZoomInfo or something to find supplemental leads? That's okay. That's fine. But the lead list itself needs to be centralized. The company needs to create it. So you create all of the accounts, the companies that they're going to be selling to, the primary person they're going to be reaching out to. That's the lead list. If, let's say, there's 3 different buyer personas at every single company that you could talk to, you're building all of that out in your CRM. And then they're talking to somebody on the phone. They say, oh, you should really reach out to so-and-so. Okay, great. They can hop into ZoomInfo to get that data. That's fine. But I want the primary lead list to be owned by the company. Do you recommend using power dialers like Orem? Great question. A bit of a nuanced answer here that you might, it seems like a simple yes or no, but it's not. I want to be very, very clear. The delay, power dialers, less so. So let me just give you a quick overview of the difference. Power dialer calls a number, ring, 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 ring. Hello, blah, blah, blah. Hang up, starts calling the next number. Hang up, starts calling the next number. Power dialer, totally fine. You can use that all day. Parallel dialer, that's when they call multiple phone numbers at once and connect you to whoever answers. There is a delay between the person answering the phone, the system recognizing somebody answered the phone, and connecting you. It's like a second delay, half-second delay. And if you've used these tools, you know, it'll be like, hello, hey, this is Kyle calling from, and we've all gotten calls like this. It crushes conversion. I've done controlled tests of this where I take a rep calling the same list and 50% reduction in conversion rate. The only thing I can think of is it's the delay. Just from using a power dialer, they have a reduction in conversion rate, connect to meeting booked rate. And I think it's because of that delay. That's the only thing that makes sense. So because of that, here's how I use it. We'll have a big cold list of leads that either have leads that have never answered the phone. We'll use parallel dialers to call through those lists. And this is, at first you might not need to do this, but at a certain point you want some scale. This is what you do. Use parallel dialers to keep calling through that list. That allows you just to make way more calls per day. And then you one-off call or power dial through the list of people who have answered the phone before in the past. The reason why this works is because if I call a cold list right out of ZoomInfo, the dial to connect rate will be 5% on average. If I call a list of people who've answered the phone before in the past, the dial to connect rate will be 25%. It dramatically improves. I've even seen it higher because these are people who answer the phone. There are people who answer the phone. There are people who don't. So that's why. Okay. Are there any other sales channels beyond calling, emails, and LinkedIn that I should try? It depends, Garrett. Like if I remember right, you have a lot of SDRs. I don't know if find what's working. Let's just keep doubling down on that, is most likely the answer. That being said, you can use other social media platforms, but the approach I like is a bit different. It's not like a cold DM approach. We create content, they engage with that content, we reach out. So that's what I'll say there. I don't have a better channel. Conferences maybe would be another one. Okay. Yeah. Lillian beat me to it. Live events, trade shows, conferences. Yep. Yeah, I agree with Lillian too. How many accounts should one BDR or one SDR have? So this is another it depends answer. And before I answer it, please fill out my survey. If you're still here and you haven't filled out my survey, you're breaking my heart actively breaking my heart. Unbreak my heart. Stitch it back together for me. Please fill out the survey. Okay, Garrett, how many accounts should one SDR have? So it kind of depends, right? So it's less so accounts and it's more like number of people that they have. I have seen expectations of you're making 120 calls a day. You have 3,000 companies that you could call. There's one contact at each company. Each SDR gets 3,000 accounts, which are really just individual. They're leads, and that's it. And then they shuffle them, rotate them, etc. That could work. What I would do for you is I would do the math and say, how many touches do I want each company to have, and how often do I want them to be contacted? So let's say you want everyone on your list to receive at least one call per month. And by the way, you might say 1 week. I don't know what you sell. Then you just do the math. In order for us to making 100 calls a day where everyone in the market is getting, or in the lead list is getting called once a month, here's how many leads the SDRs are going to be able to do that with. So I would just do the math to figure it out. A couple of things to note here, just so you have some heuristics on how I think about it. Generally, for more transactional sales, where you're calling one individual, you're going to have a higher volume of calling, and it's only one person at each company. So you'll have more target accounts because you're ripping through calls way quicker. And then you have one company with 3, 5, 10 different potential stakeholders, they're going to have way less accounts. Also, the more strategic the sale, the longer the sales process, the higher dollar amount, et cetera, generally you have to do more things than just blindly call, right? So we've been talking a lot about like mid-market SMB calling here, where it's like very, very dependent on just volume and speed and just doing as much as you can. When you start moving to the enterprise, that still matters. So I'm still tracking the tracking sheets, call scripts, everything. But there are some other things that they need to do. Maybe they're building out the account a little bit more, or maybe they're using trigger events in a different way. So you want to balance a little bit that. So I can't answer your question directly, but at least 1,000. Now you can go way less than that if you want it to be very strategic. I just don't know if SDRs are the right approach for that. Jury's a bit out. Anyway, depends on the organization. But for example, I have one client where each SDR has 200 accounts right now. That's it. So don't take this as gospel. Do your call scripts change based on the prospects / decision maker you're reaching out to? Yes, a couple of things that change my cold call script. One, I will change the struggles that I'm mentioning based on who I'm talking to. So I mentioned earlier, hey, this guy, blah, 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 intro. Typically when I talk to CEOs, they tell me they struggle with one of two things. Not enough leads aren't closing. If I'm calling an SDR manager, they struggle with one of two things. Their SDRs are, spend a lot of time on manual work, which prevents them from being able to make more calls. Or two, they make a ton of calls, but no one answers the phone. So I'm picking different struggles based on the persona, yes. And I create persona-based scripts, and I have the reps call in a persona-based way. Same with verticals, industry verticals. So that's the first thing I'll say. The other thing I'll say too is if you sell a software product that integrates with something that they use, I will create lists of organizations that use that product. So like, let's say you integrate with Salesforce. I want a Salesforce list. And you're going to be able to get some of that from your data provider. Some of that you're just going to have to learn over time. And as SDRs are calling, they're learning that information. I call it secondary intel. They're updating the CRM with that information. So that might be when their contract is up. That might be what software they're using, et cetera. And then you can create, or SDRs can have blocks of calling where like, hey, I'm just calling Salesforce leads today. And they're calling through leads that have Salesforce. And then the intro of that cold call changes. Hey, I'm reaching out because I know that you're using Salesforce and we help, blah, 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 blah. So that's how that would change. Good question. The strategy you use for the meetings like this, that you send an email the day before another 30 minutes before as a reminder, you recommend to do it with our clients when we schedule a demo. Yes. Okay. So a couple of things. The emails, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've only had 2 people complain. I send a lot of emails to remind people to come to this thing. I like having people live. As you guys can tell, like the Q&A is my favorite part. And I like being able to bounce ideas off of each other. I like it when you guys interact with each other. I send a lot of reminders. I think it's like 4 reminders on this day. I've had 2 people complain. I definitely think that you should be doing a email reminder before, and then at least the day of. I'd probably do 2 of the day of, in the morning and then 30 minutes, 20 minutes before the meeting. I would also, if it's SDR who booked it, they should be calling the day before, or if they booked it a little far out, then they should they should either call the day of, or if they booked it a bit far out, they call the day before. Another thing I'll mention here, if you want to fix your show rates pretty quick, force your SDRs only to book meetings same day, next day, or the day after. You can leave it open, but if you really like encourage your SDRs to say, do you have some time later today or tomorrow? You're going to see a dramatic increase in your show rate. So that's a little extra tip. Okay. Akash, what do you think about account prospecting and open prospecting for commercial market? I have no idea what you mean. Think about account prospecting and open prospecting, like an open gym at a jiu-jitsu place for commercial market. Or maybe you're talking about like account-based versus just having leads. It depends on the organization. If that's what you mean, if there are multiple people who work at one company, you have to be more account-based. If there's one primary decision maker that you're trying to reach out to, then you don't have to be nearly as account-based. That's how I think about it. And okay, cool, I got it. Thanks, Akash. That's how I think about it. And generally, if you're just building the team for the first time, or your approach for the first time, you want to start with one. You can add account-based stuff later. What I find is people are like, all right, we're going to start doing cold outreach. And they try to orchestrate this incredible thing based on these wild best practices of like, oh, we have a GAGE sequence, which, I don't even know what that is, or I do, but like, you get my point. There's that kind of sequencing, and then, oh, how we're using the multiple stakeholders, and I want this incredible symphony of outreach. It's like, let's pick up the phone, call, get some meetings booked, and then we'll start optimizing our process from there. Kind of like what Gareth was asking me about earlier. I start with calls, then let's weave in email, then let's weave in LinkedIn, then let's do whatever. Right now, let's be more account-based, etc. So that's how I think about it. Yeah, 200 to 250 to 1,000 employees. Most likely, you'll have more than one decision maker that you could potentially reach out to. So you might be more account-based. But at first, like I just said, I would start with the primary decision maker. All right, last thing here that I want to bring up before y'all head out is my survey. Please do my survey. It's my last pitch for the survey. Then I'll let y'all go. Boom. Okay, cool. That was all of the questions. Hey, thank you so much. There's a lot you could be doing on a Thursday. You decided to spend it with me. Hopefully this was a good use of your time. If it was or wasn't, fill out my survey. That really warms my heart up. And if you're curious about what topics we're covering coming up, I have some really good ones on the docket. That go to vorst.com/events. You'll love it. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon. Bye.